This is the time when fortunes are made
Mm-hmm.
or lost. If you bought it last year around 100 to 120 and now you're down at 60, if patterns hold, you're needing to wait till probably 2028 and most likely 2029 to be in the green again. So somewhere between probably September or October of 2026, we should see an all-time low for this cycle, not an all-time low overall.
Your organization is known worldwide, and we certainly appreciate every facet that you do.
I do believe in what you're doing because I've seen it in my family.
I'm so excited about all the things that, Robert, you guys do with Classical Conversations. It's been a huge blessing for our family.
Grateful for the work at Classical Conversations. You're a leader and you have been in this movement for a long time. We love Classical Conversations.
I do feel like I have a debt of gratitude to you, your family, all of CC for just the fruit that has come from CC.
I appreciate all that you guys do, both through this wonderful podcast and also through Classical Conversations, which I am convinced is the best education resource out there. Thank you very much for all that you do for the cause of Christ and for our families and for our children. Really, really appreciate it.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another informative episode of Refining Rhetoric. If you've been following our channel for a while, you know that we've been talking about cryptocurrencies since the beginning, and now we try to do quarterly updates about what's going on in Bitcoin and in other altcoins, and so you can be informed and hopefully continue to educate yourself on what is hard money, what is real money, what is fiat dollars, so that you can protect your wealth. You can protect your hard work and not see it get inflated away, which seems to have happened a lot over the last few years, although it may be currently in a cooling stage. But as always, Bitcoin is very volatile. Of course, we've been volatile in the wrong direction if you were needing to sell. But at least as of 1 o'clock on the 10th of February, this is when we're recording, the current price is $69,581, up about 15% from the low, which was $60,074, which was, I believe, 52% below, or 52% correction from the all-time high we saw in early October. So, yeah, Will, with what's going on?
Well, it's good to be here. It's a sad day on one hand. From our last update, you were right in your prediction of Q1 2026. So well done. I guess the crypto cycles have not broken. Let's start with that.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, crypto has seemed to follow the 4-year cycle based on the Bitcoin halving. That's when the number of Bitcoin that is produced or released based on the algorithm is cut in half approximately every 4 years. And so this time it seemed to accelerate into the halving faster than ever seen before, creating a lot of excitement. But it usually taps out Q4 of the post-halving year, which would have been October through December. And, different things cause it to do so. This time it was a tweet from Trump, basically, talking about China. And since then, we've seen gold and silver rally hundreds of percent. I think silver's up like 300% and gold's up 150%. Don't quote me on those exact numbers, but we've seen them pull back since then, but still up considerably just from a year ago. And we've seen, the price of Bitcoin fall, and then the altcoins have tanked even farther than 52% and don't appear to be rebounding. So, yeah, take us through, maybe explain in your own words, like what this Bitcoin cycle means. People were talking about you being one of them, an elongated cycle. What would have that looked like? Why were people saying that? And what actually happened?
Yeah. Well, we were supposed to, the theory that I was following was we were maybe following this business cycle, and we had an extended amount of time with rates high, right? We didn't get a rate cut until recently under Jerome Powell. Overall, he was very fearful with, Trump tariffs and how he handled all of that. So a lot of people are thinking that liquidity drive, that M2 market the liquidity flow globally was delayed, and truly it kind of has been. Looking back now on the analytics on 2025, there's no liquidity really in the market to pump all this, and that with tariffs, with a lot of uncertainty, and then probably the inflation from those ETFs that were exciting this last year. That was definitely fun to see ETFs come online, and that drove a lot of market sentiment. That's probably why we had that early run up that you were just talking about before that last halving, which was April of 2024. So like Robert just said, it ran up early, probably because of those ETFs. So a lot of excitement, but excitement without liquidity. If you don't have money to buy something, that excitement doesn't go very far. So it turns out that be the case. The altcoins really did not have a run in the last 4 years, which you typically seen. And what they're showing now, I think Benjamin Cowan said it just a couple of days ago, is that institutions drive the price of Bitcoin and Ethereum, and retail, at least historically, has driven those altcoin prices. So looks like we missed the boat on on those altcoins, which is okay. There's a lot of good coins out there. I shouldn't say a lot. When I say a lot, I mean 50.
Maybe.
And the rest, are just speculative assets at this point. But that kind of explains it. No liquidity, I think, was the big disappointment of this last cycle.
Yeah, no. One of the things and this is just a theory, of course, is that it appears China and India and some of these other countries are buying gold and silver with their finances instead of putting it into Bitcoin. And I just wonder, like, how much of that is because of Trump's family's involvement in the crypto space, that maybe some of these nation states who may have drifted in that direction are now drifting away from it. So any thoughts on that?
I mean, when you're throwing tariffs on and you're promoting crypto, it doesn't speak too kindly to wanting to support that asset class. So yeah, I do think some retribution from nation states has definitely been a part of the whole thing. I would agree with that.
So recently, one of the some of the thought process was we were going to get more crypto clarity in the United States and be the crypto capital of the world. And they had two bills. I think one of them was passed and another one seems to be stalled, the Clarity Act. So I believe there were some rumors that it's going to be delayed now or may not come to pass this year, or am I misinformed? So where do we stand with the Clarity Act?
Yeah, the Clarity Act is basically a bill to bring a regulatory framework to the industry. And from what I've heard, about 70% of the institutions that want to get into crypto don't own a penny at this moment. They're waiting for that clarity. They need some rules. They don't want to just run into the Wild West with a billion-dollar company, which makes a lot of sense. So they're waiting on that. The House of Representatives did pass the Clarity Act, but of course that had to be passed on to the Senate. The House passed it last July 2025.
Okay.
It was passed to the Senate, and there's two portions of the bill that need to pass. There's a Clarity Act A. The A stands for the Agriculture Committee, and they did pass their portion a couple of weeks ago. But there's a Clarity Act B, which is the Banking Committee, and the bankers have dug in their heels. So that second portion of the Clarity Act, they're literally talking to Trump today. Trump has bankers at the White House to see if they can find some common ground and push that through. Many analysts speculate now that it will be passed by Q2, including Benjamin Cowan. He was thinking that there's hope now for that to go through, but some compromises will have to be made along the way. And, the bankers are very concerned about finance changing very quickly. Obviously, they have a monopoly on the market.
Yeah.
There's a lot of unrest around staking and some of those yields that they currently can't give customers. And obviously, they see crypto as a competitor. I think they want to work with crypto. They probably see the writing on the wall, but it's just a different model than they're used to. So that's where it stands right now. Is Clarity Act B needs to get through the Senate before it can be signed into law by Trump.
Hey everyone, quick interruption to tell you about our awesome sponsor, Worldview Academy. Students call Worldview Academy the best week of their lives. Through week-long summer leadership camps for teens, Worldview Academy trains Christians to think and live in accord with the biblical worldview so they can better serve Christ and engage the culture around them. Worldview Academy reinforces what students are learning at home and at church and trains this generation to apply that knowledge to the challenging cultural issues they're facing. To find a camp near you or learn more about Worldview's weekend conferences and other resources for family, visit www.worldview.org. That's www.worldview.org. Now let's get back to the show. Now, the banking committee has Senator Elizabeth Warren, I believe, on it, and she has not been a friend of cryptocurrencies at all.
Not at all.
And so I know that's a hurdle. And then I think Tom Tillis, our senator, who's not running for re-election for good reason because he would have lost, is on that committee as well. So they very much have banks financing their election campaigns, and so we definitely see this almost as a last stand by the banks or the banks to try to cut it off. Now, very clearly, there's bad actors in the crypto space versus the banking, which is only good people. If you know anything about the history of banking, you know that is an inaccurate statement. But so as we're going, so one of the things, if you do want to know more about cycles, I do suggest you go watch Benjamin Cohen. I was joking before. I should have done what he told me to do or suggested based on his videos this past year. I watched his videos, but I didn't follow his not financial advice either. Would have been better off. But historically speaking, October or 1 year after the high is the low. So somewhere between probably September or October of 2026, we should see an all-time low for this cycle, not an all-time low overall, before heading to the fourth quarter of the post-halving year. So probably March of 28, we'll see another halving. And then I guess Q4 of 2029, although it's getting earlier and earlier. So I'd almost speculate it would be the end of Q3 probably of 2029 where we'll see a new all-time high. So we just had a 50% correction for the first time in Bitcoin in like 3 or 4 years. Used to happen much more regularly. We hit swept a low of 60,000. So between now and let's say October and the cycles hold, what type of low do you think we could be looking at?
When we look at the data and technical analysis, since 2018, there's been a trend line, an ascending trend line, so a trend line that's going up, but there's been a bottoming out. So every time we go through that lull, we call it that bear market, which is generally 2 years after halving.
Yeah, roughly.
Roughly is our bear. We've always bounced off of this trend line, and it's ascending. But right now, it is marked at $37,000, which would be another drop. I think that'd be around a 75% drop off of that October high you were talking about, around 126,000. So will it get down there with all the ETF buying? I have no idea. But if history repeats itself, this trend line is an 8-year line that has been honored to date. So we'll see if Cowan's right. And like Robert said, a year after the last all-time high would be October this year. So we have a few months to see what's going to happen here. It should be an interesting 6 to 9 months to see how far could it potentially drop. But at the same time, we have catalysts. I'm an eternal optimist. That's why I have a hard time listening to Benjamin Cowan, though I will be listening to him much more often because he has been very right, and I acknowledge that. But Clarity Act, we've got M2 money supply coming back. We also have a Fed chair coming around. What's his name? Kevin Warsh?
The stock market dropped when he was first. I haven't watched his videos. I've been meaning to go see it, but he seems very dovish. I mean, he's very much not a monetary expansion guy. So, which I think was probably good for the U.S. dollar, but I think people are questioning whether he's going to sing a different tune or not. Trump claims that he did not talk to him about interest rates. Certainly, Trump has made his opinion clear. I think we have $8 trillion or $9 trillion in interest or that we have to refinance, or debt that we have to refinance in 2026. It's currently around 1-2%, very low percentage because it was refinanced during COVID. Well, now you got rates at 6-7%. So right now our interest budget, I think, is now officially bigger than our military budget. And you can imagine if your interest rate on a home went from 3% to 6%, what that would do to you. Now imagine you got $9 trillion going from 3% to 6%. So just paying our debt servicing is going to be a considerable portion of our budget going forward if we continue to have to refinance at these rates. And of course, we have $2 trillion more they're expecting to add to our deficit in the next year or so. So definitely it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Now with that trend line, that continues to go up and to the right. So
Correct.
So it's 37,000 today, but a couple months from now, it's going to be kind of in the mid 50s because it's based on historical price action, right?
Right. Yeah, it does ascend slowly.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, 37 will be an amazing time to buy. That would break other trends, though, right? The crypto has never gone below its price on the presidential election day. It might have done that, I think, this past drop. So the trend is your friend until the end.
Very true.
And all models are useful, and all models are wrong. And so it's going to definitely be interesting to see what happens. I'm definitely optimistic. I know last time, the last bear market, Bitcoin went down to 16,000. So if you still think about it that way, if you bought last bear market at 16 and say this bear market 4 years later is at 37 or 55, 62, whatever the number ends up being, like that's still a good return. So it's still a good return every 4 years. But if you bought it last year around 100 to 120 and now you're down at 60, you're needing to if patterns hold, you're needing to wait till probably 2028 and most likely 2029 to be in the green again. So so I mean, we don't know people's financial position and what they're doing, but I think both you and I wish we had purchased more last bear market. I know we had talking when it was at 16, we were both like, as soon as it drops to 13, we'll buy.
Exactly.
And it never dropped. Right. So like, what are you trying to do during this bear market? Are you just done with crypto, done with Bitcoin, trying to accumulate? Are you going to try to wait till later in the year or wait till October and just go all in October when we think it'll be down? What are you thinking?
Good question. Well, none of this is financial advice. I'm not sure if we got our disclaimer in there to this point yet. But I am excited. I'm an eternal optimist.
Yeah.
And I, like to try to give my opinion when asked and help people be safe out there, but also have a great return on our investment. I could not be more excited after the heartbreak of it is going down and we're following the 4-year cycles. I was hoping for a 2-year cycle, but I could be more excited that we have another opportunity, frankly, to accumulate this asset. It might be one of the only finite assets out there, especially if China makes this counterfeit gold and we find an asteroid and the price of gold. Who knows where the price of gold could go? That's a conversation for a different day, but we're pretty confident that Bitcoin will stay as a depreciating asset, right? So I look at this as a great time in 2026, most likely 2027, as you get about a year out from the next all-time high. That's really when things start accelerating. So there's a window here of probably, in my opinion, the way things are going, probably 9 months to 12 months, where you can really accumulate. And dollar cost averaging is the way to go. It just has been proven over and over and over again. So no, I won't be just buying October. I'll wait for days that go down. making small buys, because this is it's a fractional coin, Bitcoin. So you have,
Yeah.
100 million Satoshis, right, in one Bitcoin. So you can make a $10 purchase. And that seems to be the way to play the game smartly. So, hey, whenever you have an extra $10, $100, or at least when I do, I'll be throwing it in and just thanking God for another opportunity to accumulate. And we'll see what happens. What's your strategy?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think we'd see these. I thought there was a good chance we'd never go under 100 again, even though I also, kind of thought the top might be around 125 for the last 3 or 4 years. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of dollar cost averaging. I mean, I think looking at it, really anytime it's under 70,000, I think is going to be good. My personal opinion, like we're seeing diminishing returns. So, one bull cycle went from 1,000 to 10,000, right? And so that's a 10x return. And so then we went from, like 3,000 to 20,000. Well, that was a 7x return. And then we had a 4x return. And this last time was basically 2x for about 66,000 to 126, not quite twice as much. So I'm kind of targeting a price, give or take 10 or 20% of 180,000 in either sometime in late 28, but more likely probably those first 3 quarters of 2029. So I think this time, I mean, one day the cycles will be broken and maybe it'll be an extended cycle. Maybe it'll be this next time. But I would definitely, what I'm looking to do is deploy cash in a dollar cost averaging type of way between now and October. And I'll continue doing it after that, obviously. But I think really this May through October timeframe is probably where we're going to see the lowest amount. And then hopefully we'll see it keep tracking. But like anything, especially Bitcoin specifically, there might be a couple, there might be 5 altcoins that do okay. But this last time, I mean, there's lots of them that never reached their previous all-time high.
That's so true.
There's a lot of the projects have been abandoned and people aren't working on them anymore. And so I was probably 75-25 roughly Bitcoin to altcoins. I mean, I don't know that other than mild speculation of, 3, 4, 5% of my portfolio, I'm going to probably be all in Bitcoin. Not that there's not some cryptocurrencies that potentially have real world use. It's just that there's been so few of them, which I think also kind of drove out, the retail investors this time, as well as just the high price of Bitcoin makes it seem unaffordable. But I still think if you're trying to get to 1 Bitcoin right now, it's 50% easier than it was a year ago, right? If you're trying to get to 0.21 Bitcoins, which people like to use because that's 21 million total, right? That became half as easy. So I think just again, the best strategy is, figure out what portion you want to do and just allocate, whether it's $50 a week, $50 a month, $5 a day, $5 a week, whatever the number is that you think you want to do. And I think right now Monday's the best day to buy. So I would just kind of put a buy order in every Monday for whatever you're wanting to do. And the lower the price goes, maybe you buy the same amount, so maybe you buy, I'm always going to buy $5, 0.0001 Bitcoin. Well, some days that might be $5. Some days that might be 15. Some days that might be, $2 or whatever. So just looking at that and trying to figure out where you want to be a year from now and maybe doing a dynamic number. So if it's, if you're trying to spend $100 a week when it's under 60,000, maybe if it drops under 50, now you're buying $200 a week. And if it drops under 50, you're buying, $300 a week or something like that, where the lower it goes, the more you're trying to get so that your average price goes down. One of the things, and I haven't just been paying attention to it at all, but Michael Saylor, MicroStrategies are just rebranded as strategies now. He bought a ton this last year, well above 100. I don't know what his average price is now, but I think it's somewhere where 60s, 70s.
Yeah, mid 60s, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's Yeah, so I think he was underwater there temporarily, and he might be above water now. Like, what's going on with strategies and or these kind of Bitcoin? I know there's like ProCap Bitcoin, and there's all these companies that are just trying to buy as much as possible, but they kind of started at a bad time. Are they still solvent?
They are still operating, as far as I know. Michael Saylor bought another $3 billion at 90,000 when it dropped from 126 to 90,000. So you can see his optimism is still there. I was watching him yesterday. He doesn't seem phased. His liquidation on strategies has risen from $3,000 last cycle to $8,000.
Okay,
which no one. The price of Bitcoin will not hit 8,000. I would almost
at some point
gamble my car on that.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Well, it would be nice for him if it did. If it hits 8,000, he has to liquidate. It's gonna go way low,
right? Way
lower than that. Which then hopefully I'll have money on the sideline to buy. What else should we be expecting this year? Is there anything else on the horizon, or are we just kind of in a bear market for the next 12 months, waiting on the Clarity Act, and maybe we'll get a little pump here or there from interest rates or anything else going on?
Oh, the Clarity Act, like you said, is a big catalyst. So we'll be watching for that and for institutions to come racing in. Also, they're supposed to tokenize the back end of the stock market, which would be really interesting. And the only way to tokenize would be through cryptocurrency. So that's another thing to watch is, does that happen? I believe they settle $3 trillion a year on the back end of the stock market. So that's a large number. I don't believe they will use Bitcoin for that at 7 transactions per minute, being the data rate of that blockchain. So that's another catalyst to watch. Interest rates are good to watch. Wars, the price of oil, which I don't quite know, but when oil rises, it seems like that's a catalyst for crypto kicking off. Also, the last time that metals spiked, which was nothing like this last spike with silver and gold over the last 3 months, the last time they made a run was the back end of 2019, and that rotation, once things settled down after COVID, seemed to rotate right into crypto for that massive, catalyst of a bull run right there at 2021 after the pandemic and all of that. So there's some interesting things floating around geopolitically. We watch trends, your friends till the end. Like Robert said, not always true, but there are some indicators that, next year going into 2028, 29, will be good. So fortune favors the patient.
Yes.
And I believe instead of looking for those exact numbers like we did last time, that we've learned our lesson with the dollar cost average. And we'd like to pass that wisdom on to you if you have ears to hear. That seems to be the way to go to add success to your personal finances and family. So that's what I'd leave. That's what I'd leave you with.
Yeah. And I just got to remind myself to execute on my plan again. I executed better than I did 4 years ago, but I could have done much, much better if I had just listened to my own advice. And so I'm going to call it right now. 174,000 is going to be the high in Q3 of 2029, plus or minus. I think that's probably going to be the high, 174. But if it goes better than that, great. I think I'll probably start dollar cost averaging out once it hits like 160 or something this next time, just because I don't want to. The roller coaster's fun, but it's also stressful. At some point, I don't want to be so stressed. But yeah, so thank you for tuning in today's market update on Bitcoin and crypto and things that are going on. And again, if you're interested in learning more, definitely check out. I think Benjamin Cohen is someone that has been proven right a lot over the last 4 years, which may mean he's not going to be right the next 4. I don't know. But he's definitely someone I watch and listen to. And he's a North Carolinian, just lives a couple hours north of us. So, thank you for tuning in to this informative episode of Refining Rhetoric. Hopefully you did better in the bull market than we did. And let's enjoy the bear market together, because this is the time when fortunes are made or lost. All right, until next time, not financial advice. Share this episode with a friend, and God bless.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Refining Rhetoric with Robert Bortins. Want more? Make sure to subscribe so you won't miss an episode. You can also follow us on social media to continue the conversation, and visit classicalconversations.com/rhetoric to find out how you can join a local homeschool community.